What have I missed here? It's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we will all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Jess Warner will lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Councilman Ridgway.
Here.
Councilman Rose.
Here.
Councilwoman Smart.
Here.
Councilman Warner.
Here.
Supervisor McFarland.
Here. The next order of business is approval of the minutes of the June 11, 1992 meeting. And I move that those minutes, having been distributed, they be approved without reading.
Second it.
Is this the public hearing or regular meeting or both?
Excuse me, this is the public hearing. 19, that's Resolution 92-122, the public hearing of June 11th. Thanks, Jim. I'll move it, and you seconded it. Any discussion? Byron, will you call the roll?
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
No.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
I will abstain, being not here. I know what went on, I will abstain from voting.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. Next resolution, number 123, move that the minutes of the June 11, 1992 regular meeting, having been distributed, they be approved without reading. I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion? Byron, will you poll the town council?
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
No.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
Not being here, I'll abstain again.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. The next resolution, number 124, I'll move it, that vouchers numbers 256 through 297, general fund, in the amount of $57,114.23, and vouchers numbers 147 through 177, highway fund, in the amount of $9,454.50, having been audited, the supervisor is authorized to pay same from funds available. I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Byron, will you poll the town council?
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
I'll say aye only to the bills that I signed.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
I'll say aye only to the bills that I signed.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. The next is bills and transfers. That is, excuse me, we just did that. The next one is number 125. I'm getting ahead of myself. The next order of business is communications. The first is a letter from Sylvan McHugh. She is the stenographer to the Town of Volney Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals. And she writes, "Dear board members, this letter serves as my resignation as stenographer to the Town of Volney Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals effective July 31, 1992. I recently learned that I am pregnant and carrying twins, and upon my doctor's advice, I have come to the decision that I cannot continue in this capacity for the time being. I have enjoyed working with the members of both boards and have considered my time as stenographer a learning experience. I plan to apply for the position again in 1993. I hope that my work for both boards has been satisfactory and that you will consider me again for this appointment. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Sincerely, Sylvan K. McEwen. We have advertised for this position and so far have received no applicants. It would be effective August 1. If you know of anybody who would be interested in a part-time stenographer's job, shorthand is strictly necessary. They can get, he or she can get the details from the town clerk.
I would just like to add that Sylvan did an excellent job and she'll be sorely missed. I hope we can replace her with someone as qualified as she was.
It'll be tough to do so, however.
I sure will.
The next is a letter from the Oswego County Environmental Management Council with the subject N0 soil informational meetings. The letter reads, the Oswego County Environmental Management Council will be coordinating 2 informational meetings dealing with N0 soil in July and August. N0 soil is an agricultural product that is being used in various parts of Oswego County and other areas of the state. Many people have had questions about this product, and we hope these meetings will give people an opportunity to ask whatever questions they may have. The meetings will include short presentations by the NVIRO organization, the New York State DEC, and a representative from a lending institution about resale and property values. These presentations will be followed by a question and answer period conducted by a panel of above-mentioned individuals. The meetings will be held on July 28 in the Volney Town Hall and August 18 at the Grange Hall in Pulaski. Both meetings will start at 7 p.m. Byron has copies of this if anybody is interested. It has also the agenda. The next is I have received a check from the State of New York Insurance Department. It is made out to the treasurer of the Fire Department of Volney Fire Protection District. And the accompanying letter states the enclosed check represents funds collected by the New York State Insurance Department pursuant to sections 2118, 9104, and 9105 of the New York State Insurance Law. The funds are for the use and benefit of the firemen protecting the area designated on the check. I will turn this over to Byron and he will forward it to the
What's the amount?
$3,442.03. The next is a comment I'd like to make, and I should have made it sooner. You will probably coming in, you notice the flowers at the around the entranceway. They were donated by Byron Rowley, our town clerk, and Bob Kerfing, highway superintendent, and they arranged for the planting of them. And I thank both gentlemen for doing so. I would also like to commend the Field Days coordinator, Terry Bezzosi, for a very successful Field Days. He was responsible for the parade, which was not only well attended, but had a great many entries, and I feel the Firemen's Field Days were a success from many aspects, including financially. The next letter is one concerning a informational meeting for landowners in the surrounding area where gas pipeline 63 will be installed. This has to do with the installation of a pipeline relative to the site industries generating plant, power generating plant, which is being discussed right now. The purpose of this meeting is to increase the landowners' awareness of the proposed site and types of construction activities associated with the gas pipeline. The topics discussed will include where the pipeline will be installed, what are the common procedures, and how will the right-of-way affect the landowners' activities in the future. The legal aspects of providing an easement for a right-of-way and the impact of money received for the sale of a right-of-way on your income tax and the tax basis of your property. This pipeline, of course, passes through the town of Volney, and the meeting is August 4 in the Volney Town Hall here at 7 p.m., and Byron has a schedule if anybody is interested in attending that. The last communication is one, I will preface it by saying a couple of months ago, the town council authorized, with the exception, of course, of Howard Rose and Jess Warner, authorized the payment of a legal bill to attorney James Evie, for his services in the defense of our Justice David Rapp. Councilman Rose and Warner objected to it, said it was not legal. We submitted questions to our town attorney, Dennis Hawthorne, and Dennis has written a letter which I just received, and I will read excerpts from it. Subject: payment of legal expense of town justice. Dear Mr. McFarland, I have been requested by yourself and 2 town board members to provide you with my legal opinion as to the propriety of payment by the town of legal expenses incurred by the town justice in its defense of a proceeding before the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. The underlying facts, as I understand them, are as follows. An individual filed a complaint with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct concerning town Justice David Rath. Justice Rath contacted legal counsel to appear with him at a hearing before the Commission. The Commission issued a no further action decision. Justice Rath submitted a bill for legal services provided in the amount of $850. None of the facts are disputed, nor is the legal fee alleged to be excessive. The issue is whether the town board may properly pay the legal costs incurred by Justice Rath. The appellate courts of this state have had occasion to address this issue. In Leo versus Barnett, several town officers were contesting their removal from office, which was sought in an Article 78 proceeding. The officers defeated the attempt to remove them, and they were reinstated to their offices. The officers, through their attorneys, then brought an action against the municipality to compel the payment by the town of the legal expenses they had incurred. The court dismissed the officers' lawsuit, holding that the town could not rightfully pay their expenses. And I quote, absent statutory authority expressly permitting the payment of council fees, a public officer or his attorneys may not recover for such council fees in successfully opposing his removal from office. The risk of defense and its attendant expense are the personal burden of the officer, not to be laid at the door of the municipality. The New York State Comptroller has also addressed this issue on a case with nearly identical facts. The Comptroller issued his opinion that a town may not pay the legal expenses of a town justice against whom a complaint of misconduct or incompetence has been made and filed with the State Commission. Based upon the foregoing, it is my legal opinion that the town board is not authorized to pay the legal expenses incurred by the town justice in connection with the proceeding before the Commission on Judicial Conduct. Since receiving this letter, I was in contact with David Rath, and he indicates he will reimburse the town. And thank you, Howard Rose, for bringing that to our attention.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
We have a public officer's liability insurance, and it was my understanding that this particular policy was to be used in situations such as this. Now, is it possible that we've gotten the wrong opinion? Because it would seem to me as though a public official could have meaningless suits and meaningless articles brought against them, which could actually cause them extreme financial difficulty. and could actually put them into a situation where they could no longer afford to continue in office. And that was, I thought, the purpose of the insurance policy that we had. Now, did I misunderstand what that policy is for, or should we check into it further?
No, you are absolutely correct. However, there is a $5,000 deductible on that, Jim.
Okay.
I'll read something else to you, Jim, that covers just what you're asking. General Municipal Law, Section 52, authorizes the purchase of public official liability insurance, but we conclude that with the exception of coverage for disciplinary proceedings, a town may purchase the type of policy described in your letter pursuant to the authority contained in General Municipal Law 52. In addition to purchasing liability insurance for its justices pursuant to Section 52, we note that a town may also purchase liability insurance for its justices under Public Officers Law 18, if it has adopted the provisions on that statute. But it says here, let's see if I can find the section here, you can't buy insurance for that type of thing, for misconduct charges. It's excluded from any policy. I'll give you a copy of it.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I misunderstood certainly what our liability insurance was.
Next, our committee report, assessors. Claudia?
Okay, we got a letter that was actually directed to Fay Sanford, the chairman, and that's a good summary of what's been going on with the assessor's office and data collection. It's from Assessment Services, Philip Murray, project manager. I'll read the parts of it that are pertinent. The following report represents the status of the Town of Volney data collection and revaluation project as of July 7th, 1992. The report covers data collection progress to date and is in accordance with our contractual agreements. Data collection began May 11th, 1992, and the following recap summarizes production to date. Total number of parcels, 2,461. The numbers completed are 2,276. Measured only is 38, and to be completed, 147. Assuming our data collection staff's regular daily production of 72 parcels per day, we expect first time through data collection to be complete by July 10th, 1992. We will continue to have staff available for any requests for appointments our office receives and the few recall visits on measured-only parcels that remain. Completed property record cards continue to be keyed the very day they're handed in such that the entire project file will be ready for the full run of standard inventory edits on July 13th, 1992. The edits are a programmatic check for any missing inventories, erroneous or incomplete data, and possible keying errors. The resulting report will then be responded to item by item to ensure clean subject's inventory file prior to the production of data mailers and the sales file creation. It is expected that the edited subject's file from which the data mailers will be produced will be available for transfer to local assessment services by July 17th, 1992. And they make note of the fact that they are totally on track with the progress as of this point, and if anything, they are a couple of weeks ahead of schedule. So everything's moving along the way it's supposed to.
Thank you, Claudia.
Could I ask a question on this assessment thing? Have any complaints come into the town related to people complaining that they're not asking to come in their house? Have you received any calls here at the town hall or your house or anything?
I haven't received any. There is a clerk on duty during the day, and some people have had questions or things that they didn't understand, and they take the information, and then someone goes out to see them.
Because at our last meeting, there was a few complaints from the citizens that they didn't have the opportunity to let them in their house because they didn't stop and ask. And I've had several phone calls this past month where people said, aren't they supposed to come in your house?
Any that there are, if you direct them to call the office, and the number on that is 598-2036. During the day, Linda Lyons is the clerk on duty, and she will make sure that someone gets back to the people and straighten out any misunderstandings or
Well,
whatever
these
the
people were
problem
home,
is.
but nobody even knocked on the door. They just went out and measured and then went to the next house. They didn't even attempt to ask to come inside, and that's why they were concerned.
Well, you know, if any misunderstandings, whatever, just give them a call and they'll get right back to you.
Planning Board, Kevin?
Hello. We have two meetings coming up this month. One is on the 14th, which was in the paper today. It's a joint meeting with the zoning board, and I'll let Jean and her committee report expand on it so we don't get repetitious at this. Our regular meeting will be on the 21st. Anyone who has business before the planning board can come either the 14th or the 21st. I've received several calls this month regarding pending subdivisions ranging from 2 to 6 or 7 parcels. At this time, they have not come before the board, and I'll probably be seeing them at this meeting, but at this time, we don't have any public hearings scheduled for this month besides the meeting on the 14th. At our last meeting, we gave final site plan approval to the proposed River Glen Shopping Plaza. As far as I know, they will now be going before the ZBA. One condition we did have regarding their approval was we requested that once they make a decision regarding how they want to screen the residential parcels on Pierce Drive, that they'll come back before us and just review it with us. The reason being that the type of screening is going to be somewhat dependent on how the clearing of the land goes and the final elevations of the parcel. It could be that the screening that's there is appropriate. It could be that maybe some type of mound of soil might be appropriate or some trees may be planted. Either way, I think that they have a strong, they recognize the importance of making the residents in the area happy and providing a type of screening that they'll be satisfied with. And for that reason, it was determined that once we get to that point, let's make a decision, and they were going to come back before us at that time and review it with us. The only other thing I'd like to mention is that in May, there was formed an Oswego County Planning Federation. And the purpose of this federation is to assist the various planning and zoning boards as well as code enforcement officers throughout the county in better understanding their duties and responsibilities, helping them handle the many complexities of their position, particularly in ensuring that the state's laws and mandates are followed. And also the board this federation would help the various boards avoid expensive litigation, which as we all know is right around the corner in every decision we make. This federation would be composed of members from various planning boards, zoning boards, code enforcement officers, or town boards throughout the county, whether it's cities, villages, or towns. This town of Volney was well represented on this federation with my cohort here, Jean Conway, serving on the organizational committee. And I don't know if she had something to do with it, but I'm serving as interim chairman. At this point, what we'd like to do is we're hoping that members of this federation are going to boards throughout the county, informing you people of what's going on. The county planning board and county legislators played an advocacy role in getting this federation formed. We think it can be very good for the various boards throughout the county. At our last meeting in May, we had a couple experts regarding seeker attend and spent an hour or so giving us a presentation and information and answering questions regarding this very complicated seeker process. That alone, to me, shows that this federation can be very beneficial. At some point, we would need the town board to pass a resolution allowing us to become members of this federation, and there is one that's drawn up, and I'll put it in your mailbox in the next couple days to review. Each board can have a member be a voting member, such as, so for example, the town board could have a member, the planning board can have a member, the code enforcement officer could be a member, and the ZBA could be a member. So a particular township could have up to 5 voting members on this federation, depending on how they want to do it. The dues on a yearly basis would be $25 per member. As well, any other person who is interested, whether they're on a town board or if they represent some type of organization in the county that is an interested organization, let's say a soil and water conservation organization or environmental organization, is welcome to serve as associate members and participate in the meetings attend the informational sessions and play a role in the Federation. I would recommend that if a person is interested that they do. Right now, we can use your help and use your support in getting this Federation off the ground. If anybody has any questions, they're welcome to contact me. And if anybody is interested in being involved in this Federation, please feel free to let me know. We'll be having a meeting probably in September, and we're going to try to coordinate having at least 4 meetings a year, as well as having, every other month having a meeting of officers and senior members. Thank you very much, and as information comes up regarding the Federation, I'll work to keep you informed. Finally, one of the problems that we as a planning board have faced, and I talked to a couple of the board members about it. Periodically, we'll approve a subdivision, we'll go through the whole process, have a public hearing, and everything seems to be fine until the person starts clearing land or building a roadway through his parcel. Then all of a sudden, we may get a call, or Ed will get a call from somebody saying, hey, what's going on down there? And, you know, they'll call me up, and I'll say, yeah, this gentleman came before us, we went through a process, we approved the subdivision, and everything's fine. And he may say, well, I didn't know anything about it. What's going on here? Why wasn't I informed? Well, that's a problem, and that's something that we try to resolve. We do go in the paper, and we're on the calendar, but sometimes, as people say, they may not read the paper, or they may not come down to the town hall. So one thing that I know that Gene and I discussed a year or so ago with the board is the idea of possibly having a sign erected on the parcel to maybe 10 to 14 days prior to a public hearing, so that anybody driving by this parcel can see that sign, and if they're interested, they can come to the public hearing. What I'd like to request is if I can give just a rough outline of what the sign would look like. We do have one member on our board who is expert when it comes to signs, and I was wondering, Howard, if you would be willing to maybe just draw up a sample and charge it to to the planning boards. Well, draw up a sample, and maybe it can be reviewed at a meeting, and if so, the town board can adopt it as a law, and we could take that step and possibly take a big step towards eliminating this problem for our townspeople in the future. Okay, I've got a sample. I'll leave it at the end of the meeting. I'll give it to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Incidentally, we did talk about that at the meeting on Tuesday night. I think that the sign idea is very workable, and I think that we can do very, very promptly.
Thank you.
Gene Conway for the zoning board.
Hello. We had 3 public hearings last night, and they were all for requests for area variances. The first one was from Mrs. Carol Johnson, and her residence is located on Old Route 57 near Van Buren Road, and what she was asking for was a 10-foot side yard variance to construct a garage, and so we granted her the variance last night. Mr. Eugene Robolewski of County Route 57, he was asking for a 13.5-foot front yard variance to construct a garage as well, 28 feet by 30 feet. In both of these cases, we needed to apply with the county for their recommendation, and in both cases, the county approved it or recommended that it was a local issue. So we did give Mr. Robolewski his 13.5-foot front yard variance with the stipulation that he have a turnaround area in his driveway. Also, we continued a hearing last night and finally made a decision for Mr. Peter Giudilli of County Route 57 as well. And we granted him a variance to construct a 30 by 50-foot garage / shop. That's a 10-foot variance. In addition to that, we had 2 other people come before the board last night for requests for area variances. One was a Mr. Lester Robinson of Gillespie Road, and he's asking for, actually he's going to need 3 variances, or he's requesting 3 variances to construct a garage because he's on a legal undersized lot. So he's asking for a side yard, rear yard variance, and also a variance between the garage and the house. And that public hearing will be coming up next month in August. Let's see who else. There was a Mr. Williams who came before us last night, and his property is on the corner of Kings Road and County Route 55. And he's asking for an 18-foot rear yard variance to construct a garage. And he will be coming before us again next month for a public hearing. I just want to inform all of you that our next meeting will be the third Wednesday in August instead of the second Wednesday in August. So it'll be a regular monthly meeting and public hearings that evening. Kevin started talking about the informational meeting on next Tuesday evening, and I've been in touch with Lorna Anders, who's a representative of the DeWolf Architects of Rochester, and she asked if her organization could come before the zoning and planning boards to talk about things that concern both of us. And I have an agenda, a tentative agenda for that meeting. Things that we're going to be talking about will be the grading plan, the special use permit process, variance requirements and requests, including bulk variances on parking space and aisle sizes, bulk variances on height, signage. Other areas of concern will include screening, drainage, future density / lot coverage per parcel, and we'll also talk about seeker. Right. Oh yeah. And I guess I didn't make myself clear. It's for the Seneca Hill Medical Campus. Okay. So I know a lot of people are interested. Public is welcome to come. The meeting gets underway at about 7 o'clock, and we'll be meeting in the conference room down the hall to the right. We won't be in this room that evening. And that's it. Thank you.
Gene, is there a reason why it's being held down there instead of here?
Yes.
Yes.
Oswego County Opportunities is asked to have a training class for their training group. And I cleared it with Jeannie, and she said she had no problem.
I'm just thinking of the relative sizes of the two groups.
Well, I asked her.
Well, there will be probably a minimum, I would say, I mean, the two boards get together, and I would assume they're sending at least a couple of representatives. There'll be 10 or 11 people, and then I think we can put enough chairs in the room for people that would come. I don't know what to expect, I guess.
Could Byron maybe contact Oswego County Opportunities and find out how many people they plan on having?
I think he
attend?
said about 35.
They asked for 35 or 40 for
Oh,
their training. They have to train their drivers and all of that every so often. And I cleared it to make sure it was, or it wouldn't interfere before I okayed it.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Gene. Ed Kuhn, building inspector.
Last month, we issued 4 permits for pools, or 7 for homes, 7 for garages, and 2 each for additions, decks, maintenance repair items, and septic systems. 1 additional for a hangar at the airport. It was a total of 27 permits, and the total fees were over $2,300.
Thank you, Ed.
Dog control, Joe Doty.
For the month of June, total number of calls that I received was 24. Number of dogs adopted was 4. Number of dogs redeemed, that was 0. And when I say redeemed, that's the number of dogs that I picked up that have been claimed by the actual owner. There was none of those. Number of dogs for euthanasia was 4. Total miles traveled was 333. Number of complaints pending, 0. Number of complaints closed, 24. Total number of dogs housed at the pound this month was 8. Number of dogs at the pound right now, 0. There was 5 tickets issued. I had a state inspection that was done a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And they checked approximately 35 different items. And they also had a state veterinarian with them. And out of the 35 items that they looked at, they found no deficiencies. So I was very well pleased with that. Repairs at the pound, or updates. I placed a fire extinguisher up there. There wasn't a fire extinguisher in the place. I figured that was pretty important. Bob Perfine was up there, widened the driveway, took down a couple of trees, did a nice job up there. We had E&M Electric do quite a bit of, well, not quite a bit, but some electrical work up there. and they did a very nice job up there, and they deserve to be thanked for that. Another person that I had some dealings with this past month was Dr. Spears. That puppy that I was going to bring in to show people at the last month from down with Parvo. And Doc Spears pulled him through it. And right now the puppy's in Florida. Quite a journey, wasn't it? So we're pretty much all set down there at the pound right now. I told the state inspector that anytime she wanted to go through that, all she'd have to do was contact the town clerk to obtain the keys and go through it, and I didn't need to be there. And she thanked me for that. Now, there is one other thing that I'd like to bring up for an upgrade up at the pound. Howard, you did a beautiful job in that sign up there. I'm not picking on you or anything like that, but last month I made the statement that the place was going to be run in a professional manner. And the sign states Town of Volney Kennel. Okay? Dictionary definition of a kennel is for the breeding of dogs. Okay? We're not breeding dogs up there. We're a temporary holding facility, a pound or a shelter. So I'd like to make the recommendation that we take the sign down and have shelter put on it. So we'll bring that up at a later date. Free dogs, you can contact Mrs. Carmela Warner. She has a 6-year-old Lab Shepherd mix. It's a house dog, and she can be contacted at 593-8886. And I have no reports of any lost dogs. Other than that, that's all I have.
So would you give us a number again for the TV?
For the what?
The volume numbers?
Oh, okay, the dog control number for the town of Volney is 598 dogs. It's 598 dogs. And the number for that free dog, again, is 593-8886. It's Mrs. Carmela Warner. So the report will be on file right now.
Phil, I just have one quick question to ask you. Well, first of all, there was a letter to the editors complimenting you on your job that you're doing. A very nice letter. But it says in the letter that someone on the board is finding fault and won't leave you alone. Is there someone on this board that's giving you a problem? Or?
Well, the situation is this, okay? It's been brought to my attention that I was being tagged as a dog dealer. And Section 77.5 of the New York State Egg and Market Laws state that no person shall be appointed the position of dog warden or dog control officer when they buy, deal, sell, or trade in dogs. The last 4 key words says it all for the paragraph, as a business enterprise, okay? I'm not going to hide it. Yeah, I've got hunting dogs. I've got beagles. I might raise a litter of puppies out of my beagles once a year, okay? I talked to Egg and Markets when they did the inspection, and they told me that that section of the law does not apply to me at all. And that if you wanted to pursue it, Howard, I know you contacted Jack Woods. If your intent was to, get rid of any cases that might come against the town on my behalf because I raise and sell dogs, fine and dandy. But he told you that the law did not apply to me. As far as I'm concerned, it should have been dropped right there, if it was.
It was dropped, Joe.
Okay.
I only raised the issue during the interview, the only time I raised it, because it is in the Egg and Markets laws.
That's
And it
correct.
wasn't a personal attack on you, it was just to cover this town, which is my job to do, to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Okay.
The only thing that I found other than that law that might cover you is the fact that there's an opinion rendered that says you can sell up to 10 dogs, but no more. That's the only thing that I would say covered you. That's why I asked last month if you'd be willing to sign a statement to that effect, just to cover the town in the event that someone challenges the fact that maybe you sell more than 10. I'm not going to do that, but maybe someone might. And to protect this town, I requested that of you. And I also talked to our town attorney about drawing something up. I don't know if he did that or not. Did anyone get anything from our town attorney in that regard?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so that's all it was. It's not a personal thing.
Well,
You understand that, I hope.
number one, I don't sell any more than 10 dogs a year, okay? Number two, I'm not going to sign anything.
Can I ask why you wouldn't do that?
Because it doesn't, I don't go over the 10 dogs a year.
I'm not gonna say you do, I don't know, and I'm certainly not gonna challenge that. I just thought it might be in the best interest of the town in case someone challenged you or us, that be on file, that's all.
Well, they can prove that because I have all registered dogs, okay? All they have to do is contact the American Kennel Club. Because every litter of puppies that my pair of beagles have is registered, and it is documented with the American Kennel Club.
Other than that, you agree that there is no one on this board harassing or giving you a hard time, I hope?
No, not yet, and I hope there won't be a problem there.
Okay, great. I just wanted to clear the air on that so no one has any misconceptions about what's going on the town board.
Okay. The other thing, I'd like to thank the people that did come down to the open house last month. I know you couldn't make it down, Howard. The invitation is still open. Same with you, Jess. See the upgrades. And looks a lot better down there. So, that's it, folks.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Okay.
Jim and I, Jim Ridgway and I went over and toured the facility the other day, and it's immaculate. Really terrific. Highway Department, I don't see Bob Kerping here, and Byron, I believe you have his report.
Highway Superintendent's report, month of June 1992. 22 days mowing roadsides, 16 days hand patching, 22 days maintenance, 1 day mowing cemetery. Wages for June 1992, $17,829.27. Maintenance, road repair and supplies, $9,454.50. Total expenditures for the month of June, $27,283.77.
Thank you, Byron. Recreation, Randy?
Yeah, we had a pretty full month this month with the rec program. We started out with three activities on the books. We did an open bowling that we had about 40 kids show up over the bowling alley. They bowled 64 games, and the guy that runs the place complimented our kids. And they were the best behaved group he's had there in years. He had absolutely no problem whatsoever with them. I was really glad to hear that. After that, we went on a boat trip down in Ballensville from Dutchman's Landing. We were on the City of Syracuse boat. It's a double-decker boat. We were almost near capacity to that 100-passenger boat. The weather didn't really agree with us. 2/3 of the way through, all the kids were up on top and the cloudburst came down. Let up for a while. That was okay. We put them back up on top. We got to the locks in Ballensville, and the clouds opened up and just drenched every one of them. And I don't know if you've ever seen kids, well, Donna Kessler was up there with us, and the kids did not want to go down. They looked like a bunch of wet dogs. I mean, just like they come in out of a downpour. But we finally got them downstairs, and we let them back up long enough to get them through the locks. I think they had a good time, but I'll tell you, on the way back, there was a lot of shivering kids. But they were still having a good time, I guess. But it was a tough day. The weather really didn't make it great for us, but we got through it. Then we did Thunder Island. The weather was great for that day. The kids had a good time. We had approximately 75 kids show up over there, and I'd like to point out that not each one of these events, the same kids go to all the time. You'd think that one person would come in and sign up for 5 or 6 events and go to all of them. They don't. So this is not just a free outing for parents to drop their kids off. We check the sheets, and we can see different children all the time going to these events. So it's not just 60 or 70 kids going to the same events all the time. So you can see your tax dollars are going in the proper places, I would think. Upcoming things we've got on the books right now, and one of them is from the county. It's Arts in the Park. It comes every year, and that's going to be August 3rd through the 7th. Or that's camp happening August 3rd through the 7th, and at the Volney School. Arts in the Park is every Monday from now until mid-August. It's here at the town hall from 2:30 to 4. You don't have to sign up, you don't have to do nothing, just bring your kids over, you can stay with them, you can do some of the arts, because they need some people to help them. 2 girls come in from the county, they bring all the supplies, and the kids have a good time. So that's every Monday from 2:30 to 4. We have, on the 25th of July, another outing. It's Let's Go to the Races. It's a night at Fulton Speedway. This is pre-registration required, and everybody must have a membership card to go to this one. The reason is because they're going to be showing their card at the gate over there. Fulton Raceway is even going to supply hot dogs, French fries, and soda, free of charge to the children of Volney. I think that's outstanding, and we didn't have to twist our arm. They offered this. This is a great thing for the community. I like to see more of these businesses get involved like this. We are going to ask to have quite a few chaperones. They're going to rope off a section for us, but being that it's the kind of activity that it is, there's steep stairs. I'm going to ask that the younger ones be one chaperone with 4 children, because if I don't, they get lost. We're going to be looking all over that place for them. The older kids, 1 on 6 or 1 on 7 will be proper for that. So anybody who wants to go to that, it's July 25th, and that's going to be a good night out. Let's see, that takes care of July. Okay, we've got an archery program that we've put a sign-up sheet out here for, that we were approved to buy some equipment. Since this has been out in the public, we've had inquiries from other recreation associations. One is in Fulton. We are now talking about working with other municipalities in either exchanging, they have a pool our kids can use, and they come out here and do the archery, something like that. I'm in negotiations right now. I don't know where it's going to lead, but I think it's looking real good right now. I talked to Jim Ridgway about the archery program, and he said it was okay to go ahead. We are going to set up the archery range over at the town park. We're going to see if we can get a hold of some old telephone poles for a backstop, so we can build a retaining screen so we don't lose a lot of the arrows. Problem is that the neoprene ones that you can buy, that the ones that they recommend, are around $700, and I just can't see it spending that kind of money right now when we do have to spend almost $500 just for the equipment. So I've approached our recreation committee, the Parks and Recreation Committee, about assisting in building this, and they've come back with a positive reaction, so that there won't be any cost as far as labor is concerned in putting this together. There'll be a little bit of money involved in putting in some pressure-treated lumber to build the box that the hay has to go into. But other than that, it looks like it's going to be a real good program. We have, after the calls I got tonight, over 40 children signed up for this so far, and we haven't even got a starting date yet. So this is looking real good. We've been in contact with the fire department, and they would like to use or help build or both a softball field. They've joined a softball club, or I don't know what they call it, but they're with other fire departments, and they want to get a field down there. And so I'm in negotiation with them right now to find out how much they want to assist us in that, and what guideline. We have to come up with some guidelines and stuff. How many days a week it can be open, how often they can use it if they help us assist. I mean, it can't be theirs because they help us. This has got to be a community effort. So I'm still talking to them about that. But other than that, the only thing we've got on the books for August is Volney Days, which is going to be a hometown Olympics, and that's going to be held either here outside the town hall, or maybe at the school if I can get permission down there, or if not, maybe over at Town Park. We haven't decided that right yet, because we're still working on that. And on the 27th of August, it's Syracuse Chiefs baseball versus the Clippers in MacArthur Stadium. The bus leaves at 5:45, and we'll get back approximately 10:30. So other than that, I guess we're running pretty good.
Running very good. I commend you on the terrific job you're doing. You're putting in a lot of effort. shows a lot of thought by a lot of people, and I want to thank you very much for it. Would this be the appropriate time for our friends from the Wide Waters Group? I think so. Okay. Joe?
Good evening. My name is Joe Girardi. I'm here with Lou Aiello, development partner with the Wide Waters Group, and Rodana Phelps, our human resources specialist, who also just happens to be from the town of Volney. As we proceeded through the planning board process, the planning board and the town board asked us to consider the impact to recreation that our development may have on the town. Since we are kind of removed from all the recreational and residential areas, we discussed with the board a contribution to the Parks Fund, and Donna is here to present the Parks Fund contribution tonight.
On behalf of the Wide Waters Group, I would like to present this check to the Parks and Recreation. I'm very pleased.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Donna, very much. Any other committee reports? Jean? I'm sorry. Do you want to say anything about a member of the committee?
Dan? Sure, I don't know what to say, I guess. He's in the hospital, I think probably some of you know. And I'm not exactly sure. I think it's very serious. Dave Winfield was telling me last night, I believe he has stomach cancer. He's in the hospital right now with pneumonia. Apparently he came home from the hospital and came down with pneumonia, and he's back in the hospital now. He's at Cross Serving. So if any of you are interested in sending cards or whatever. He really was very private about it. I didn't really know anything until last night. He's, I think, fairly close with Dave, or they talk, and that's what Dave passed on to me.
Yeah, Dave Winfield is very close,
Right.
and I know it worried Sam before he went into the hospital what the outcome might be, and I guess it's worse than anticipated. Very sorry to hear it. Any old business?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, 2 months ago, we accepted bids to put a new roof on the building. What happened?
I have been in contact with the party because I've been equally concerned, Jess. And they have written me a letter, which I just got, in which they have stated that they will be starting this month and completing it within 2 weeks. The performance bond arrived last week. I, like yourself, was concerned, and I did talk to them and asked them for a letter setting forth that they would be, when they would be going and when they would be completing.
They were able to...
Yes, we got it last week.
I just have a couple items no one else does. The first one I'd like to discuss briefly, the issue I brought up last month concerning the insurance. Jesse and I requested a meeting with the 2 agents involved and the town board, and they decided they didn't want to meet that way. So it ended up being Claudia, myself, and Dick McKeon from Eastern Shore Associates. And at that meeting, what we discovered was a couple of things. First, Claudia mentioned the reason the policies didn't compare like maybe they should have was that the uninsured motorist was an oversight on the policy. The umbrella was supposed to be 2 mil instead of 1 mil, which was a typo, and they didn't quote the public officials coverage. So the reason I'm bringing this up again mainly is because I'd like to vindicate not only myself but Dick McKeon from Eastern Shore Associates. First of all, Supervisor Farland said that I was misleading, which I wasn't, because it wasn't apples for apples, as was stated. And I think it was wrong of Mr. Groen to imply that it was, saving $10,000 to the town, which makes it look like Eastern Shore Associates was taking us for a ride, which they weren't. But in any case, I want to mention that, like I say, to vindicate myself as well as Eastern Shore Associates, and I hope that next time we do follow the prescribed procedure and that we review the policies carefully. One last thing I want to add about that, Mr. Drone apparently got a copy of the comparisons that I had from Eastern Shore and wrote a letter back to Claudia. And in his letter, he ends it with, hopefully the town can get on with other pressing and more fruitful legislation that will benefit the citizens of your community rather than insurance. Well, I'm sorry if Mr. Drone has a problem with me doing my job, but that is my job, to make sure we're getting the best value for the money and review these things. And I do believe that is effective legislation in itself. So I'm sorry he feels that way, but I think that next time we should do this properly, and maybe we can avoid this type of controversy.
Howard, the problem was that you didn't get this comparison from Eastern Shores until you handed it to me at the meeting. The comparison problem was not with Streeter, it was with Eastern Shores. Apparently you didn't understand what was going on. Eastern Shores listed their price with a 1 million umbrella. What we actually bought was a 2 million umbrella. They assumed that the uninsured motorist coverage that Streeter was giving us was for $20,000. It wasn't, it was for $1 million. And when in actual fact, Eastern Shores was not cheaper. Streeter and Van Sanford were slightly cheaper. He was making sure that I realized that they would have been able to give us a comparable price. They were not cheaper by any means. Apparently you missed the point of what was going on.
No, I don't think I did. It wasn't apples for apples. We agreed on that at the meeting we were just talking about.
The problem was Eastern Shores, when they tried to compare, didn't get the correct information because they didn't call me and ask me exactly what Streeter had. And the umbrella policy was not listed on the binder because that was a renewal with increased coverage.
The bottom line is, though, that we didn't really sit down and compare really closely the two policies and let them...
Yes, the two policies were closely compared. We have better coverage than we had before, and it is $10,000 cheaper than it was for the past 2 years. Your problem, Howard, is you were afraid that I was going to make an issue of your incompetence the past 2 years and wasting $20,000.
I think that's uncalled for, Claudia. If you want to carry this further, I would be glad to do it.
I'd rather you didn't, Howard.
Not tonight, but I will carry it further if you're going to call me incompetent.
Well, that is what you were trying to call me, Howard.
Any other business, Howard?
When you can't attack the issue, you attack the person. I guess that's what it is.
Any other old business?
Yes, one other thing. I did bring up about the paper shredder last month, and Jim mentioned that we had to shred certain documents, that the justices had to do that, and so did Byron. I checked with Warren Broderick of the State Education Department, and he told me that the only records that can be destroyed, first of all, are confidential records and personnel files, which I don't think we have that many of, first of all, and I don't think Byron has hardly any at all. He said that also there should be a manual here on retention and disposition of town records. Do you have a copy of that, Byron?
Absolutely.
You do?
Being strictly followed.
Okay, that's what I wanted to be sure of, because...
I'm a records management officer, in case you didn't know.
I do know that. And I also know that this board has to approve certain things that you do
It's
destroy.
already been approved long ago. I have it on blanket.
A blanket approval forever?
Yes, sir. We made out several years ago.
Okay, well, as long as you understand
There's a
that.
form that was made out with everything that can be thrown away and the time frame and the whole works.
Mhm.
And the bottom line is, the historian has the final word on anything after.
Just want to be sure that we are following procedure on that.
We
and
are
records aren't
following
being
procedure.
destroyed. Fine, that's all I'm asking. That's all I have on that item. Thank you.
Is there any public comment on the resolutions only, please?
I have one question.
Yes.
On Resolution 92-127, it says something about the liability insurance for public officials. Is that $2,729 going to be in addition to the insurance that you just took out?
Yes.
Okay. Does that mean as of this point, the last month or so, that there's been no liability insurance for public officials?
No, it has a different renewal date.
Pardon?
It has a different renewal date.
The resolution states a renewal date of July 7th.
Okay, so that is going to be an additional cost then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions concerning resolutions? or comments?
Resolution 92-128, are you going to discuss that before voting on it, or would you like to discuss it now? I'd like it explained.
It will be discussed before voting. Any other questions or comments on the resolutions? The first resolution is number 125. Whereas at the regular meeting of the Volney Town Board on April 11, 1991, a rate schedule for building permits was adopted effective June 1, 1991, and whereas a fee for the construction of decking or a porch was not established, therefore resolved, a fee of $15 shall be established effective immediately for the construction of decking or a porch. I will move it. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Did you check to make sure we can do this by resolution and authorize this? It doesn't need to be a local law incorporated into our subdivision rules.
The rates were done by resolution on April 11, 1991. If it was done by resolution then, I assume it can be done by resolution now. Any other discussion? Byron, will you poll the town council?
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. The next resolution, number 126, move that the petty cash fund used for the purpose of making change in the course of issuing licenses, tipping fee, punch cards, etc., by the town clerk be increased from the current $50 to $100. Further, the additional $50 shall be taken from the contingency account A1990.4. I will move it.
Second.
Any discussion? Byron, will you poll the town council?
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. The next, number 127, move that public officials' liability coverage policy that expires July 7, 1992 be continued through July 7, 1993 at a cost of $2,729 from National Casualty Company, agent for the carrier Streeter and Sanford Incorporated. I will move it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Okay, in the original bids that we received from Eastern Shores, their bid was $3,802 through the same carrier. When Vern actually contacted them on the renewal, it was going to be over $4,000 through them. Their prices had gone up. He got another policy through a different carrier, and that brought the price down to $2,729, which is a savings of $1,073 over what we paid last year.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Byron, will you poll the town council?
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
No.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
No.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. I'm only going to comment that I don't quite understand your vote, since this is the same insurance we've been carrying for several years, and this one's a saving, at a saving. So I don't quite understand your votes.
I didn't review the two policies, so maybe I should have abstained, but in light of what else happened here in the last month, I voted aye. Or, I mean, no.
Next resolution, number 128, whereas a study toward preliminary intermunicipal master planning for the communities of Fulton, Granby, and Volney has been proposed by the Fulton Area Partnership, and whereas a proposal has been received from East West Planning and Development Associates in the amount of $5,000 for preliminary services, and whereas the Fulton Area Partnership representatives, the Community Development Authority representative, and the county planning representative met with town and city officials on June 23 with agreement that intermunicipal cooperation could be mutually beneficial. Therefore, resolved that Volney contribute $500 of town funds toward payment of the consultant services. I will move it.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to say a few things. First of all, I have no problem with the concept of intermunicipal cooperation. My only concerns are going through the pamphlet that was put together at our meeting we had with the three communities involved. There's some things that kind of bother me a little bit about it, and I know you've been on this committee for some time, Mr. McFarland, so I'll address these questions to you, and maybe you can explain them further. First of all, I'm just going to read sections of this. It says, a subcommittee of the full body of the Fulton Area Partnership was formed to investigate ways the city, towns of Granby and Volney and the county might more efficiently and effectively address common problems. First of all, the subcommittee of this original committee, was anyone from Volney on that committee?
Yes. Don Kitts was.
Don Kitts was?
Yes.
Okay, because he never mentioned any of this to us before. I wasn't even aware of it if he was. I'm not denying that he was, but I'm just saying he never shared any of it with us and brought anything back to us about it. The other question I have is, it says here, it is difficult to discuss Fulton's future without addressing the need for more cooperation with the towns of Volney and Granby. It seems to be, this whole thing originated with the city of Fulton and their problems and their concerns and what they want to do. I'm just wondering if that's the case, why more input from Volney and Granby wasn't involved in this. If Don Kitts was part of it and he never shared anything with us, we know nothing of that. I mean, it's pretty limited information that he might have been able to offer them or share with us. I'm just wondering, whose agenda is it? Is it the city of Fulton's, or is it Granby's, Volney, and Fulton's?
It is a cooperative effort between concerned citizens and really has very little to do with government figures. They are only brought in the interest of getting their viewpoints. And this organization provides a forum for discussion. All communities, all municipalities are facing financial problems. We all have duplicate services. We all must look at in the future, and it is the wave of the future, more cooperation in order to economize and look for areas of economy. And that's what this is all about, discussion. You can rest assured that nothing will happen in the future without your full knowledge and cooperation and approval. We have to have a forum to begin discussion. And this is the means of at least sitting down and talking about mutual problems and perhaps get together and provide some common solutions. Nothing will happen without the communities knowing about it and probably voting on it. I couldn't, you couldn't, the mayor can't do anything that would be against the citizens' wishes of all three communities. But this will provide a forum for study and for evaluation and discussion. And I think it's an excellent move for the communities to sit down without aggression. Unfortunately, Mayor Valletta at that meeting just reacted, and that's the sort of forum we don't need.
I agree. A few other comments on this proposal here. It says Fulton has excellent water supply, adequate infrastructure and waste facilities, and the ability to provide these necessary services to the townships. The townships have a need for these services to accommodate planned growth. We could share in any cost of future expansion and renovations to the waste treatment facility. Now, I don't know how that is going to work in this town as far as sharing the cost of the waste treatment facility, because it would be a long time before everyone in this community would benefit from that. If they were to move into this community with their waste treatment and the water, how is the whole town as a whole going to benefit from that if they all have to share in the costs? It seems to me that's going to be limited.
You do it through districts, the same way you do through
Well,
water.
wait a minute, please. Excuse me. Your question, Howard, is an excellent one. And that is what the forum provides, a means of discussion. And it really, we will be getting together and answering, at least, or if not answering, at least being able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it also says Fulton would like additional land along its present boundaries to accommodate future industrial expansion. It just seems to me that, I know what they're looking for, they haven't come right out and said it, but it appears what they're looking for is a trade-off between land and sewer and water. That's what it appears. And I'm only asking these questions, I know it's in the minds of a lot of people out there. And, before we go ahead and approve anything here, I want to make sure that this is in our best interest too. Not that I'm not concerned about Fulton, certainly we'd like to see Fulton do well as also, but it goes on to state, it separates Fulton, Volney, and Granby's needs and problems with their municipalities. And the first thing listed for Fulton is Fulton does not have much available land for future development. Under Volney, it mentions Volney lacks infrastructure. I don't know what they mean by that exactly, but I don't see where we have a real problem with infrastructure. We don't have the extensive infrastructure that Fulton has, but we don't need it out here right now. Volney also does not have complete zoning or planning and tends to have spot zoning. I would probably challenge that. I think our zoning and plan needs some upgrading, but it's fairly complete. I don't think there's a whole lot of spot zoning. But on the other hand, it mentions Granby. It says Granby's lack of industry or major tax base has resulted in high property taxes. Now, what does that mean? Are we going to start sharing our tax base with them? I mean, these questions come to mind here, and I'm just not so sure that that this study that we're going to do is a study for us. It seems to be a study for the city of Fulton more than us. And I just want to, discuss that a little bit before we go any further with approving.
I think what they meant on the part about Granby with their tax base was that if they had more availability of sewer and water, they would be able to have more growth in their town, and then that would increase their tax base. It would not take away from us. It would just give them opportunities for growth that would be separate from us.
Okay, well, that makes sense, but I know that they have been asking for water for several years that I know of, and it hasn't come through yet. I don't know if it's because of the bickering and infighting that's been going on between the communities or what, but it seems like if someone wanted to cooperate, that would have been something they would have used as a leverage before.
I think you've asked some very good questions, Art, and I think we all have similar questions to the ones you're asking. I think what this study is going to do is try to focus some of these concerns so that effective dialogue can begin between the municipalities. It's possible that there would be no results that we could buy into. It's also very possible that we could find some common ground to work on. I saw Randy tonight starting to do something with the city of Fulton and talking about some cooperation with our recreation programs. And these are things that maybe that haven't been looked at before. The study would give us an opportunity to look at some of these things, and that's all the study is going to do. It opens dialogue, I believe.
And our road superintendent also has similar things going with a lot of the different towns where one area has a chipper, another one has extra paving equipment, and so they'll do extra chipping for them, the other one does some extra paving for them, and he said there's been a lot of cooperation back and forth between the towns in Oswego County, and that's only to the benefit of all the towns.
Okay. Well, Werner Drone did mention that there were some problems in the past, and he didn't want to go over those again. He wanted that was all water over the dam, he mentioned, and that we have to go on from there, and I agree. But at the same time, we have new boards in the different towns. We have new council people in the city of Fulton. So whatever happened in the past was with different people. I think we have a good working board in these towns now that could probably sit down with them and talk about these things maybe before we go into the expense of having one of these things. Because we don't know where any of us stand on these issues yet. This is going to be a professional firm, I take it, that's going to come in and review things and give their opinion on what should be done for the different communities.
No, Howard, they identify problems.
Okay, identify problems, right, and address needs and so on. And I think that's something we could probably do on our own first, discuss it, and then work that out later if we need the professional help to come in and do a master plan for the three communities. The other thing I have a real problem with is you harshly criticized us earlier this year for being incompetent with the budget process last year and not giving you much money to work with, but we've been spending money hand over fist here, and now we want to give $500 more out. We've got our recreation program that has to have spaghetti dinners to raise money just for the basic essential rec programs in this town, and we haven't given them any extra support. As a matter of fact, we cut their budget by $1,200 this year, and now we're going to hand $500 to somebody else for another cause, and I have a real problem with that. So those are my two concerns. One, where's the money coming from? And two, whose agenda is this? Ours or theirs, or whose?
Well, we saved $1,073 on public liability coverage tonight.
You ought to hand it over to recreation.
Well, this motion here has nothing to do with money.
$500, doesn't it?
The next motion authorizes the payment of it.
Okay, well, it's coming up, though.
Yes. I think to take the isolationist attitude is wrong. I firmly believe that you cannot do this on your own. You cannot do a study of 3 municipalities and their problems on your own. It takes a professional outfit. Very frankly, $5,000 is not very much, and we can't afford the $500. Is there any other discussion?
Point of information.
Yes.
I do have a question before you vote. Is it legal to take taxpayers' money? Is this a nonprofit organization or a profit organization? Now, you said this was a group of citizens, so I'm presuming it's nonprofit. Is it legal to authorize $500 of taxpayers' money to go to a nonprofit organization? I think that's what you got to decide before.
Volney Area Partnership is a nonprofit organization.
Okay, so is that legal to donate money?
We're not donating money. We are paying, along with the city of Fulton and the town of Granby, a proportionate share of $5,000 in order to have a study done by East-West Associates, East-West Planning and Development Associates.
You're saying that is a legal payment?
Yes. I shouldn't allow questions. Go ahead, Bert.
If this group is only going to be discussing problems and has no governing ability, why do you have to pay money out for somebody else to come in and do a study? Or why do you have to use any money at all if you have no governing power? And secondly, isn't this about the same thing that Kevin spoke about on his federation? Wouldn't this be a dual plan?
The Fulton Area Partnership consists of people who are very concerned with area development and what is happening to it and the financial problems of the whole area. And this includes the county. The county is also working with this group. And we feel that the best way to go is to start with a study. Because without identifying the problems, we aren't going to go anywhere. Any other discussion by the board?
It's not only problems, though, we're also going to identify a lot of common needs and common concerns. And for the $500 fee, if we can see some places where we can share some things and share some services, I think it's money well spent.
You don't have enough professional people on these boards in order to find out what the problems are?
These people that make up the Fulton Area Partnership have jobs just like you and me. They do not have the time to do a study of this nature. It's a full-time job.
Well, I didn't mean you have to do a study. I mean, normally when you have a problem, you know what your problem is, and you don't have to have somebody else tell you what your problems are. If you all got together and you all had the same problems, I'm sure you could figure them out. Why do you need an outside person to come in and spend $5,000 and Volney have to pay $500 when you know what your problems are anyway?
This will help identify them specifically. Any more discussion by the board?
I have no problem with the discussion and cooperation with either communities. I just have a problem that we're doing this before we've actually sat down as communities together and discussed it ourselves. We only had one meeting, and it was just an informational meeting to tell us that this was going to happen. And we had no input prior to that, and we could have raised some questions then, but it was after the fact. So that's my only concern, is that maybe we all should have sat down and discussed this openly before, got, aired our problems and our concerns, and then got a firm to come in and do an overview of it and show where things could be, successfully.
We have been with Don Kitts and Jim Best.
Well, it should have been with all of us, I'm saying. There's a 5-member board here. Don Kitts doesn't get it as a representative of Volney unless the board approves it or knows what's going on, and he reports to us, and we never had that. So, I didn't hear anything about this until the last few weeks, and I just think it should have been something we all should have shared in before this.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to say something.
I'm sorry. Byron, we poll the town board.
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
No?
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
No.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. The next resolution, number 129, move that $500 be transferred from the contingency account A1990.4 to the town board account A1010.4 for payment of the fee in the previous resolution. Further, that an additional $150 to cover current bills be also transferred from the contingency account A1990.4 to the town board account A1010.4 for a total of $650. Further, should the previous resolution be defeated, that the sum of $150 be transferred from contingency account A1990.4 to the town board account A1010.4 to cover current bills. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Well, the only discussion I would like to vote on these two separately.
We'll vote on the first part of it.
You want to split the motions, is that what you're saying, Jeff?
Well, since the first one was passed, the third paragraph there becomes a moot point, so it could be scratched.
Are you referring to the first and second paragraph you want to vote on separately, Jess? The 150 and 500, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Well, since the above resolution was passed, we are now going to vote on the money to pay for it. And assuming the 3 council members are going to vote the same way, I think voting on it as a separate motion was a waste of time.
Could you explain then the contingency account A1990.4 to the town account of 1010.4? What is 1010.4 for everyone's information?
That is the account titled Town Board, from which the town board receives their salaries. And the that is A1010.4, A1010.1, and the contractual services is A1010.4.
And what is the reason we're moving that money into that account?
Because there is insufficient money. There is only 200, well, by now there's probably, what, Byron?
$64.
$64 in that account.
That's for the newspaper ads, right?
Mainly on account of the newspaper ads. Byron, will you poll the council?
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
No?
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
No, and the reason is, I wanted them separated, and I didn't vote for the other resolution, so I'm not voting to pay, transfer the money. The money I can see transferred to pay for the ads for, I'll vote no.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. Final resolution. This is very similar to a resolution we passed a few months ago relative to what is called CHIPS funding, which has to do with county highway improvement program. The state has radically cut that for this current year, and the whole program ends in next year, and there is a danger of it not being funded. and basically this resolution requests that the funding continue as it has in the past, and not to do away with it. I will move the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Byron, will you poll the council?
Councilman Ridgway.
Aye.
Councilman Rhodes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye. Is there any other new business to come before us?
Yes, do you want me to bring up the issue? I believe that Diane Collins, who is our member on the Solid Waste Management Board, has submitted her resignation to Mark Lichtenstein.
What if I said no?
Well, see, I always get it out, I always get the information out.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And Diane has submitted her resignation. Now, we do not have confirmation of that in writing from Mark, but Mark informed me of this last week. And I would just like to authorize Byron to put out a public notice seeking anyone in the town who would be interested in serving on the Solid Waste Management Board, simply getting a letter into Byron within, what, 3 or 5
Let us get that letter. We'll get direct from Mark Lichtenstein.
Get it in.
And I don't think a resolution is required.
Okay, then we'll just do it.
We'll just do it.
Good enough.
Is there any correspondence from Community Development Agency concerning appointing someone to this FAP committee? Did you get anything in the mail yet?
Yes, I've been asked to appoint one member of the board.
Were you asked to appoint him, or was the board asked to appoint him? Because my understanding is that the board was requested to do that, with a vote from the board to appoint 2 people.
And talking with the FAP people, it was felt that the supervisor should appoint, the supervisor should be one member of that pair, and that he would appoint a second member.
Okay. I talked to Jeff Hodgson, and he told me that he thought that the letter went out saying that the town board should make the appointments, but
Since then, I've talked to him.
are we going to do that tonight?
No.
Okay.
Let's see. Any other new business? Petitions. Are there any petitions to come before the council? Public comment.
I have a
Marie?
question. We could not hear what you were talking about there. Point to what board? We couldn't hear you back there. I don't know what you were talking about.
The Fulton Area Partnership requested 2 members of each of the communities to be on the board, to sit in on the meetings with them. And I was asking Supervisor McFarland if we were going to do that tonight. He said no. I also asked him about whether or not he was going to make the appointment, or the board was going to make the appointment. I understood it was the board that was to make the appointment. He understood it's the supervisor, and so I guess we're going to wait till the next meeting to discuss that.
It will be clarified.
It's a Fulton partnership thing that we're giving $500 for. Is that what we're talking about?
And you don't even have a committee? You're gonna give money to a committee that doesn't even have people appointed from the town of Volney? I think you got the cart before the horse.
The supervisor has already been on this committee.
Okay, I would just like to make a statement here. You mentioned that Don Kitts was on this committee, and I attended probably one of the first meetings with Mr. Kitts at one of these very informal meetings. It was downtown in Fulton. Muriel Elton was there, 3 or 4 other business people, and a couple of representatives from Granby, and Don Kitts and I, and all it was a very informal discussion at the time that the city of Fulton was looking for land from both Granby and Volney, because they were running out of land, because they wanted to bring some more industry into the area. And what they were asking is if the 2 towns would be willing to donate some land. So obviously, what is happening here is they're asking a trade-off for services if the 2 towns would donate land. It was just in the paper the other day that they've already asked for North Bay from Granby, I presume. My concern is, are we going to be voting on donating land to the city of Fulton, and if so, which land? I mean, we have a lot of prime land out here. We have Miller Brewery, Container Corporation that's pretty close to Fulton, right up to Great Bear. Is this part of the consideration?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So they're
In
not-
fact, I don't even know about what meeting that you're referring to.
It was just very informal meeting, it was just, it didn't have a title, but it was a group of people just coming together, asking for services for land, and what happened at that meeting is basically Don said that he would probably never see this in his lifetime, so I thought that was the end of it. We didn't hear any more on it, and as far as Don reporting, if he attended more meetings, Howard's correct. He never did come back and report on it to us, and as far as I knew, that the committee was dissolved. It didn't work out. Granby wanted Fulton, they wanted water and sewer, and then there was a problem between Fulton and Granby. So nothing more come of it. How long have these meetings, you're saying that they've continued, they've been in effect for how long? When was this committee set up, I guess is my question.
The Fulton Area Partnership was organized early in '91. The subcommittee of Intermunicipal Cooperation Subcommittee was formed shortly thereafter, and there were, I would say, probably 4 meetings during 1991 at which Don Kitts participated.
In 91 is when you attended.
Yes.
And there is a list of membership available for review?
Was right now?
Yeah, I just wanted to...
No, I couldn't tell you offhand, but I can tell you, yes, the Don Kitts was there, Jim Best was there, Muriel Allerton was there, and Jeff Hodges, the head of CDA, Eleanor Wilhelmy, Harold Rutledge, Ed Boehner, Vern Drum.
I just trying to respond to some of the questions because Howard did, he is correct. Don never did come back and report on this about these meetings. So as far as I was under the impression this organization had been defunct and all of a sudden it's starting up again.
How long ago did you go to the meeting?
This was before you were even on the board. It was like 4 years ago, I think. I remember one fall, and we were invited to a meeting in Fulton. And Muriel Allerton was there, and this one it was early talks about it. There was only 4 or 5 people in attendance. 2 from each town, 2 from Fulton, 2 from Volney, and 2 from Granby. And I think 2 representatives from industry. And they were talking about exchanging services for land. That was the discussion.
And none of these meetings, that discussion involved land, I can assure you. It's more centered around services that we could possibly share.
What do you think that this is looking for from town of Volney? I guess that's our big question here. What does the city of Fulton feel that they need from Volney that they don't need land?
I had the meeting with the mayor, and he said they are not looking for land, so take it for what that's worth.
So we don't know what they want from town.
What we want is discussion, mutual cooperation, to see what can be done. Any other public comment? Yes.
During last month's meeting, you told me that you were going to discuss with me about Longley's, and you haven't gotten back to me. Would you like to discuss now what you wanted to say?
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to discuss about Longley's, very frankly.
The problem is that Longley does not have a junkyard license, which he is required to by state law and the town of Volney. And we were discussing it last week, and you made the comment that we could go back and forth on this, but which you can't, it's state law, there's nothing to go back and forth on, and that you would talk to me later. I assume what you want to do is read up on the laws so that you would have more knowledge, but you did not get back to me, so I just wanted to know what was happening.
Have you discussed this with Ed Kuhn?
Several years ago when he was the code enforcement officer, and he came out and he looked at it, and remember last month I said that he made the comment that he did not see any problem. Then I sent a letter to Dan Rousseau, and Dan Rousseau said that he was in violation, but he didn't know how he could fine him, whether he legally could. So now it's all left on Mr. Kuhn. But when I called the State Attorney General's office, because of the code enforcement officer wasn't doing anything about it, they told me to bring it in front of the town board. Then if the town board doesn't do anything about it, then I am to get back with them.
Did he say what the town board is supposed to do about it?
You're supposed to enforce it if the building inspector won't do it.
Kevin?
I would think the first step would be a complaint by a citizen would have to be filed with Ed Kuhn, and then he would have to investigate it.
I believe you would be correct in that.
It has been.
No, it has to be, that was 4 years ago, I would.
No, well, no.
This would be, if you feel that he is operating illegally in some manner in the last 6 or 8 months, the first step would be Ed Kuhn investigates what is brought to his attention, as I understand it, and I don't want to speak for him, but he investigates what's brought to his attention, and he has to respond. If he doesn't, then you would go before the board. But I think that unless you have gone to Ed, that would be the first, recently, you know what I'm saying, in the last 4 or 6 weeks or whatever, and say, hey, Ed, I think there's a problem, can you look into it?
You mean if just because of the building inspector has changed, then you have to redo everything? I mean, there should be a letter from me on file that isn't completed, that is marked uncompleted business. There should be a letter on file.
Only thing I'm saying, I don't want to...
It's been ignored, and they know that this is against state law, but the building inspector is not doing anything about it. Now, the town board isn't doing anything about it. So, I mean, I have filed those procedures, Kevin. I have done it, and they have been ignored.
I know it's something that you've been concerned about for a long time, and I believe that without the renewal, there is probably a good question there. But I'm just saying, to follow the procedures properly, it might be a good idea to formally go to Ed, in writing preferably, and he has to respond. And if he does not respond, because at this point I think he can say that nobody's come to me yet.
There should be a little someplace in a file on it, because when Danny was code enforcement officer, we asked him about the situation. He said Longley did not comply, and we turned down the junkyard permit.
Right.
So look, from there, it's up to the code enforcement officer to...
I don't want to speak for Ed, but he would have to then cite them.
Danny should have cited it, because we turned down the junkyard permit for being in violation.
Vern, will you submit another formal
Okay.
letter of complaint?
I can get a copy of the one that I've already sent in if you don't have one on file.
I wouldn't know where it would be, very honestly.
If Ed's not here, I'll make it a point to give Ed a call too and let him know that this is the second time you spoke about it, and that it is something you're very, probably more than a second, that you are very concerned about it. Okay, so I'll try to call him after the meeting tonight, and to expect you to contact him.
Thank you very much. Anything else to come before the board? Yes.
Barb McEwen. This $500, it says here it's going toward payment. Is that going to be a lot more than $500 or what?
No, the share of the town of Volney is $500. The share toward the $5,000 is by Granby is $500. The amount paid by the city of Fulton is $4,000.
Is that in writing somewhere, so we'll
Yes.
write down the line that
Yes.
you won't have to come back and say you're gonna get another 500 or 1,000 or whatever? Because we're not millionaires,
But we can't really afford all that. In a venture of this statute, don't you think we ought to have something like a public hearing to ask the people if they want to be involved in something like this?
Public hearing or what?
To see if they want to go to this expense and all this, to be in a venture like this, because this is not going to be a small venture. We can see that now.
Well,
But more down the road.
I doubt if there will be significant dollars down the road either.
Well, it remains to be seen, but we'll keep that in mind. And also, when Joe was talking to Howard, it sounded to me like Joe was harassing Howard. I didn't see Howard. He sat there for 2 months and said, "I'll help you," or whatever. And Joe just seems to be very, very belligerent the way he speaks to Howard. I don't think and that's the way he comes across. And Howard donated that sign to the town, and I'm sure if town had to buy that sign, it would have been a lot of expense to the town. And those dogs can't read if it says kennel or if it says shelter or whatever. And if it's there for the purpose of taking care of the dogs, what's the difference if it says kennel or whether it says shelter? And Joss, he donated the wiring for all that. I think the town ought to be grateful to these two fellows right there for their time and their interest in the town. I think that you ought to be proud to have the two of them on the board, to spend their time and like that, to help the town out the way it is. And also, Joe said that he would sign that statement, and that's on tape. And now he says he won't sign it. And if that's to protect the town, why isn't he going to sign it? If it's not, if he's above board and says that he's only going to do what he said, sell 10 dogs or whatever, what harm is there in signing something that's going to protect the town? After all, the town needs protection as well. And I'm sure that Howard will work with Joe, if Joe is willing to work with Howard. And one more point is the way that you're allowing these people to call names to other people, and that's happened the last 2 meetings also. I don't think that's right. I think you said to me one time that you were going to run this board as a democracy. I don't see it as a democracy unless you haven't looked in the dictionary lately to see what a democracy is. Because you're allowing these board members to say things to each other that's unnecessary. And I think you ought to stop that.
Any other? Yes.
Well said, well said. My name's Alan Kestner. I'd like to know, as the town of Volney requested a waiver of the tipping fees for residents to dump their garbage at Bristol Hill, has anything been done on that?
No, sir.
Is anything going to be done on that, or are we going to request that? I thought we were going to request that from town of Volney, because we have to put up with the dump. This was brought up 3-4 months ago, 5-6 months ago. Are we not going to, you're not going to make that request?
Who would I make it to?
I thought Bill Buck was going to check it out.
Deputy Supervisor, no, I don't know. County Oswego, whoever gets the $50 that we have to pay, you know, whoever that is, I gave them my $50, they can keep it for this year, but it would seem to me that we should have some benefit.
I will make that request.
Thank you, thank you. Again, I would like to point out that Bob McEwen is right. Councilman Rose asked Joseph Doty if he would sign a statement that he, Joseph Doty, would not be selling more than 10 dogs during the year from his own kennel. Joe Doty said that he would, as long as it did not prevent him from training dogs. These are the minutes from last month's meeting. Now he's changed his mind. I'm a little confused. Does this law apply to him or not? He says it doesn't. He says you were told that it doesn't. This law that prevents him from running a kennel and selling more than 10 dogs a year, does this apply to him or not? Were you told, Councilman Rose, that it does not apply to him?
I don't recall being told by Jack Woods that it didn't apply to him.
Did he tell you that tonight?
That's what he said tonight, yes, but I would assume the law applies to everybody and anybody that is involved.
Well, I would think so.
The only thing I know is that an opinion was rendered saying that if you didn't sell more than 10 per year, apparently the Attorney General's office looked it over and decided that 10 or less is okay, but 10 or more isn't. And therefore, he made an opinion. It is not law, it is only an opinion.
I see. Well, he said he was on it last time, and now he said he wouldn't. I would like to point out that he's not here now, is he? I wish he had stayed. The last dog control officer was fired summarily for insubordination, and I would ask Mr. Doty, while he's got his dictionary out looking up what kennel means, also look up the meaning of the word insubordination, because I agree that he was rather belligerent tonight, and he was insubordinate as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to call him incompetent, because we're not allowed to use that word around here, but I would say that he was insubordinate, and I would say that he was rude to you, and I think that he owes you an apology, and if he tells you to take the sign down, well, you know, I won't say it.
Well, personally, I think we should be more concerned with calling the landfill down the road sanitary.
Incidentally, correct you, Dr. Kessner, Diane was not fired for insubordination. She was not fulfilling her duties as dog warden. She was not feeding the dogs, she was not watering the dogs, and she was not taking care of not cleaning the kennels. That is why she was let go.
The word insubordination was either in a newspaper article or in her resignation letter or in the resolution by the town board.
Excuse me, she used the word, we did not. That is not the reason she was fired. Yes.
On this area partnership, are we going to be kept informed every step of the way of what is happening, or is this going to be done undercover? I'm a little bit suspicious of it, as I think several townspeople are, because we don't know very much about it at all, and I feel that anything that is said or is written, we should be informed of, since it's going to affect all the townspeople. And we just want to be kept on top of it.
We will have reports at every council meeting as to the status of what is going on. That will come under other committee meetings, and that will be reported every month. Claudia pointed out to me that the first meeting of that group for intermunicipal cooperation meets prior to the next board meeting and requires an appointment. And I've asked Claudia if she will serve on that with me on the intermunicipal committee, and she has agreed to do so.
Are we going to say we're appointing anybody tonight?
I did say that, but she pointed out that the next meeting is in the next couple of weeks.
Are the local people going to have any input on any decisions on this? I guess I'm asking, are we going to be allowed to vote as to what steps are going to be taken? Whatever the decisions are of this partnership.
The decisions that there will be no decisions coming out of that group. It will simply be discussions. And what is discussed will be brought back to you on a basis of when there is a meeting, that information will be brought back to you.
This is all that I can ask, and I want us to be informed of everything every step of the way.
You certainly will.
Thank you.
Are these meetings open to the public?
I see no reason why they can't be.
But are they?
Pardon?
But are they? Yes or no?
If concerned people want to attend, I can see no reason why they couldn't attend. However, I'm afraid they could not allow public participation because in those circumstances, it could get very cumbersome to try to have meaningful discussions.
How about the TV viewing audience? Can they attend it?
I wouldn't see why there would be any problem with it.
Did I understand you say that you've already appointed Claudia to this?
Yes, I did.
Just a while ago said you weren't going to appoint anybody.
I did, but there is a meeting prior to the next board meeting.
Well, I think in light of, we have some differing opinions on this board, it would behoove you to appoint someone that has a different point of view, and maybe myself or Jeff should be along with you on these meetings.
Well, the problem there becomes 3 people, and then that becomes...
No, I don't mean all 3 of us. I mean, instead of Claudia, have someone else that has...
Howard, you just voted against it. I couldn't...
No, I voted against the money, Mr. McFarland.
You voted against the formation of the group.
No, I did not. No, I did not. I voted against the money. Make that perfectly clear. I am all ready to cooperate with this effort. I just did not want to spend the money now. I want that known. So I am all for this as far as getting involved in discussing it and moving forward with it, but I'm not in favor of the money right now. That's what I voted against. So I would like the opportunity at least to know when the meetings are. If you don't want me to be a member of the panel, I would at least like to know when they are so I can attend and view them. I would appreciate knowing.
You have that information already.
Okay, but I mean as they go along.
All right.
Thank you.
Certainly. Yes.
Yeah, I got a couple things here. One, I forgot to mention when I was giving my report that last month was Volunteer Month, and I wanted to applaud the Parks and Recreation group, the one that supports our Recreation Committee. They worked real hard all year long, and I forgot to mention them, and I'm going to catch it for that anyhow. And this month is Parks and Recreation Month, and anybody who wants to get involved in helping with this is the month to do it. That takes care of that. I have one thing that goes along with the tipping fees up here at the town, I guess the town dump. You come right down to it. I live on 3, and the trash that comes off these vehicles going down this road is appalling. This last week I was coming out of Fulton, and there's a Fulton truck going up through with a canvas cover on, dumping boxes of beer containers all the way up the road. So we stopped, took them up to the dump, stopped at the weigh station, and went in there and told them what had happened. And it's commonplace. I thought they would do something about this when these people keep dumping. If you walk down this road, it looks just about like a dump from Fulton all the way out. I mean, every day there's somebody. I called the special number that was in the paper a while back, and I got the environmental people, and they said it's like a $1,000 fine, and it's not really a dumping that they're doing out through here. It's like littering. So you have to call the sheriff's department. If you don't get actual license number or don't get a description of the vehicle or both, then they can't help you because they can't track them down. What can we do to alleviate this trash problem down through here? Can't we set up a special number to call to get immediate, somebody to come out, somebody to take care of this? I mean, it's getting real bad. I mean, you just walk down the road, and because the weed's so high now, a lot of that stuff gets hidden. And then by fall, the stuff rots down, it's underneath there. But if you walk down that road, especially this spring when we cleaned up along the road, we had 7 garbage bags full just along my property down here, and it's terrible up and down this road. Is there something we can do about this?
I had a problem
Two
about a month
things.
ago, and I called the gate attendant up at the gatehouse, and he sent somebody out. There was a mattress in the middle of Route 3, and they sent somebody right out and picked it right up.
Two things, Randy. One, if you see somebody throw anything out of their car, very frankly, it doesn't do a damn bit of good. If you call, even if you get their license, get the color of the car, the make of the car, and anything, you could call it in and they will not touch it. The reason is because they say you could pick on somebody, and So they will not, I saw somebody throw a beer can out of their car. I got their license plate number and called it in. They say, was he drunk? I said, was he weaving? I said, no. But they said, we can't do a thing. And the other thing is, that I'd like to make very clear, is that if you pick up trash alongside the road that has obviously been dumped, they will accept that without fee at the landfill.
Oh yeah, there was no problem, and I took it up and disposed of it, and in the proper place. All I wanted him to do was to get a hold of the guy who was dumping in front of us. The canvas that he had was a mismatched 3 pieces, and the bottom wasn't even tied down. These are big cardboard boxes, 2 foot by 3 foot, and they just kept falling off the back, and we just kept throwing them back of our truck when we got there. You'd think somebody up there would go after these guys and say, hey, you know, you're creating a problem. The guy at the gate says, well, we'll take care of it. Somebody's got to take responsibility for this, because it's going to get, unless we put some kind of a fine, a fee, something here, we're going to be a dumping zone. I mean, not really dumping, but when you walk down there, and you can pick up, I got 500 foot of frontage, you can pick up 7 bags of garbage in the spring. It's a lot of garbage. And if you rake that all the way down I followed one guy out, that's the guy I called on, guy in a pickup truck, I got his license, I got everything. He went up there and he dumped up in the landfill, and the stuff was sheetrock and like that, going up through there. By the time I got it picked up, he'd already dumped and left. They said, what do you want me to do about it? Isn't there some way that we can protect our community from this?
It's a great problem, and frankly, I don't know the answer. Okay?
I'm experienced at this. I've gotten 2 people ticketed for it. And one was a hauler, those red trucks that go from, the rubbish removal. I was coming down 6th, right past here, and he stuff flying out the back of the truck, had a torn tarp, and he was going to the landfill. So I followed him to the landfill, and when he stopped there, then I got out, and they call the state trooper. Trooper comes out, the guard at the landfill has to hold that man. He can go and dump, but he can't leave. And the trooper comes and cites him. He has to go down to the trooper barracks and fill out the papers. And all I had to do was give the report there when the trooper came. But so we just had to wait for the trooper to come. And then he was fined $75, which I think then his company paid it. And the trooper told him, he was tired of seeing this litter going up and down 6 also. And he told that company that he will set out in front of Owens, Illinois, and watch these trucks come out, and if they litter, they're going to get a ticket for every time they do it. Then another time I was going through Fulton, and it was Nestle's truck that was going to the burn station, and all these cellophane wrappers were falling out. Every time he hit a bump, they'd just go shoo. So I followed him to the burn place. Same thing, called the trooper. The trooper came out and cited him, and he fined $75. But you have to stay with the truck, just like you said. Yep. You just follow him in, and the guard person there has to do something about it. It is his job to do it. And if he doesn't do it, then he should be reprimanded for his job. That's his job, part of his job.
Is that a state fine they're going, or is that a town fine?
We do have
It's a state law.
It's a state law,
Yeah.
so we can't put something on there to make people, the local person with a pickup truck going down through or throwing stuff off that
Well, then that local person, that's the same thing, that person's littering. Just like if you found a bag of garbage on the side of the road or on your property somebody dropped off, and you opened that up, and there was an address in there, their mail was in there, then the trooper or the sheriff, whoever, it's best to call the trooper. You call the trooper, and then they notify that person that has their name on the mail, and they will give them so long to go out there and pick that up. And if they don't pick it up, then they will be fined.
there's gonna be a big problem. I can see it getting worse just in the last 3 or 4 months.
They keep getting fined.
Well, I know, but there's so much of it there.
If you're saying, the county won't act on it, the sheriff, I just see new signs on county roads that says littering $500. This is on county roads. Now, if they won't come out on a complaint and give somebody a ticket, how's the county gonna enforce this $500 fine?
I don't know, that's what I'm saying. It looks to me like it's kind of this next way of enforcing a law here when you've got one fine for one thing and one for another. And we're the ones that's getting dumped on. I mean, it's just getting, I don't see any end to it.
I just want to tell Randy that if you do have that happen and you do go to the guardhouse at the landfill and they don't do anything, you should call Mark Lichtenstein directly. It's Swiggle, he's the deputy solid waste person, and at least report it to him, if that may help also.
Now, this is like the services you're talking about, cooperating with the services here. You know, they're coming out through here dumping on us, and we're asking them to cooperate with us. Oh, one last thing. When you're talking about going here and talking to that committee about working with us, I'm right now working with Parks and Recreation and Bolton as well as 2 other municipalities. If I come up with something, do I have to come to you? If I go ahead and bring some people out for our archery program, and they're going to take some kids in and work say a swimming deal with them where they come out here 3 hours a week, and we go in there 3 hours a week, and we can use our pool open to the Volney kids. Do I have to come to you and get approval before I do this?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
Cooperation is all
Well,
about.
I just don't want to step on your toes, but I don't want to know what paperwork I don't have to do.
We clarified.
Oh, I don't care.
Work together.
I just didn't want anything, no stone unturned here. I want you to know that I'm doing this out in the open, but I'm doing it for the kids. And I've got, I don't want to supersede you, but if I haven't got to go through you, God bless you.
Not at all.
There you go.
Hey, Randy. I need to clarify one thing for Mr. Kestner. I don't believe Dave used the term insubordination, but I believe I did in regard to the form of dog ordinance. And I think I used the term regarding a sign-in sheet. And I believe that at a board meeting on a Thursday, I directed her, didn't ask, but I gave a direct order as the town councilman charged with overseeing the dog situation.
I understand.
And I gave a direct order. That direct order was not followed. That is insubordination, as opposed to will you or the issue that was just occurred. That was not a direct order. Insubordination means deliberately refusing to obey a direct order. That's insubordination.
I was in the Army for 21 years, I know what insubordination is.
I'm just not sure that the dog control officer knows what it is. That was my point.
Okay, but
I did use it, Dave did not. I believe I'm the one that used it, and I think that that's where the confusion came up when Dave
Well,
clarified.
there's no confusion in my mind. Any other public comment?
Future meeting dates.
Excuse me, one last thing, Mr. Supervisor. Since I haven't been successful at getting legislator Buck to attend a meeting here in 3 years, could I ask you to request him to be at our next meeting, maybe to discuss this waiver of the tipping fees? I think it's an issue that does need to be discussed. He is our liaison between the county and the town. He represents us. I think that would be an excellent way of approaching this.
I will ask him. And I will also check on waiver of the Volney residents' tipping fees too. The next meeting will be to audit bills on August 11 at 7 p.m. It will be a special meeting. We will audit bills and approve payment of them at this meeting, and if there is any other things to come before us, we will take action on them. There will be no regular meeting in the month of August.
Could we just discuss that for just a moment, Mr. Supervisor?
Yes?
Okay, well, because you brought it up at the meeting the other night, but I wasn't about to discuss anything like that at that meeting. I just want to say, you mentioned that it was tradition in the past not to have an August meeting, and you're absolutely right. Until I came on the board, and we had a lot of business to attend to. Plus, my personal opinion on that is we only meet once a month, 12 months out of the year, and maybe come to the meeting and address us. That was my reason for wanting to have meetings the last 2 years, and I still feel that it's a good reason to have a meeting. It's your choice if you don't want to, but I think 8 weeks between meetings is quite a long time, especially when we're representing the people of this community. And I think we should be here for them.
Howard, the only thing I can say, I wish you'd said that at the time.
Well, this-
Complete
this-
reversal, excuse me, the complete reversal of what you said on Tuesday night, and therefore...
Wait a minute, I didn't say anything Tuesday night.
And I just spoke to you before the meeting and said we would have...
Right, I don't discuss things off the record on the side. I discuss them here, and I'm making my statements here.
Howard, next month, we will have a audit bills, August 11. We will have a regular board meeting, August 13. Okay?
Fine.
I will now entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Byron, poll the town council.
Councilman Ritzler.
Aye.
Councilman Rose.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smart.
Aye.
Councilman Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor McFarland.
Aye.